Did you know there's a story in the Bible so shocking it's rarely mentioned in Sunday school? Judges 19 isn't just another tale. It's a brutal journey into the darkest corners of human nature, ready to challenge everything you thought you knew about biblical heroes and villains. Picture a man, a Levite, setting out on a desperate quest to retrieve his unfaithful concubine from her father's house in Bethlehem. But this is no ordinary hero's journey. As he steps onto the dusty road, the air thick with tension, we must ask, what makes a true hero in God's eyes? Israel was a land without a king, a place where moral compasses spun wildly. In this lawless landscape, our Levite's choices will test the very foundations of right and wrong. As we follow his footsteps, we'll witness decisions that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about biblical heroes. Are you prepared to see how far one man can fall from grace? When our Levite arrives in Bethlehem, the tension of his journey melts away in the warmth of his father-in-law's embrace. But this comfort becomes a double-edged sword. Days stretch into weeks as the father-in-law's hospitality turns into a web of delay. Stay another day, he insists, time and again. The Levite's resolve weakens with each passing sunset. This unexpected kindness will soon stand in stark contrast to what lies ahead. Remember this warmth, for it will make the chill of what's to come even more biting. Finally, the Levite breaks free, with his concubine and servant in tow as the sun sets. A foreboding shadow falls across their path as they approach the town of Gibeah. Night is coming, and with it danger. Gibeah's streets are cold and unwelcoming. Door after door remains shut. In a time when hospitality was sacred, this rejection speaks volumes. The air grows thick with unease. Where will they find shelter as darkness descends? Just when all hope seems lost, an old man appears, offering them a place to stay. But is this kindness a blessing or a curse? The answer will shake you to your core. As night falls, a pounding at the door shatters the fragile peace. The old man's face pales as he peers out. A mob surrounds the house, their intentions as dark as the night itself. Their demand is chilling. Bring out the man who came to your house so we can have sex with him. The true test of our Levite's character is about to begin. Will he stand firm in righteousness, or will he falter, revealing the depths of human weakness? As the mob's shouts grow louder, time seems to stand still. The choices made in the next few moments will spiral into consequences that will shake an entire nation. Lives hang in the balance, and the very fabric of morality is about to be torn apart. What would you do in this moment? It's easy to judge from the safety of hindsight, but put yourself in the Levite's sandals. Feel the fear, the pressure, the desperate need to survive. Now prepare yourself. The decision our Levite is about to make will challenge everything you thought you knew about biblical heroes. The darkness of night in Gibeah shrouds a scene of unimaginable horror. Our Levite, faced with a howling mob, makes a choice that will echo through the ages. In a moment of panic and self-preservation, he does the unthinkable. He offers his concubine to the ravenous crowd. This is the moment where our perception of heroism shatters. The Levite, who should be a pillar of moral strength, becomes the architect of unspeakable suffering. As the door opens, the concubine is thrust into the night, her fate sealed by the very man who should have protected her. The scripture paints a chilling picture of what follows. Throughout the long, terrible night, the mob brutally abuses the woman. The Levite, safe behind closed doors, does nothing. The silence of the night is broken only by the sounds of violence and the absence of mercy. As dawn breaks, we see the full weight of the Levite's failure. The concubine, broken and spent, crawls back to the house. She collapses at the threshold, her fingertips just inches from safety that never came. The morning light reveals a scene of utter desolation. A woman destroyed by the very person who should have been her protector. The Levite's response to this tragedy plumbs new depths of moral bankruptcy. He emerges from the house, ready to continue his journey as if nothing had happened. His words to the lifeless form of his concubine are chilling. "Get up," he says. "Let's go." There's no recognition of her suffering, no hint of remorse for his actions. This moment marks the lowest point of the Levite's journey. He has not only failed to protect the vulnerable, but has actively sacrificed an innocent to save himself. In doing so, he has fallen so far from righteousness that he can no longer recognize the magnitude of his sin. The story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature. When faced with danger, How quickly do we abandon our principles? The Levite's actions remind us that moral failure often comes not in grand gestures, but in moments of fear and self-interest. This tale serves as a stark warning about the consequences of living without accountability. In a land where everyone did what was right in his own eyes, the Levite's moral compass spun wildly out of control. Without the guardrails of community and divine law, he descended into a pit of selfishness and cruelty. Yet the story doesn't end here. The Levite's actions, horrific as they are, set in motion a chain of events that will shake the very foundations of Israel. His next decisions will lead to civil war, nearly wiping out an entire tribe. It's a grim reminder that our choices, even in moments of crisis, can have far-reaching consequences. As we stand at this moral crossroads with the Levite, we must ask ourselves, how can a hero fall so far from grace? What does it take for a person to abandon everything they supposedly stand for? These questions strike at the heart of our own moral lives. But amidst the chaos and bloodshed, a question lingers. What truly defines a hero? Is it the one who seeks justice at all costs, or the one who strives to prevent further bloodshed even in the face of great evil? The lines between right and wrong, once so clear, blur in the fog of war. The Levite who initiated this chain of events has vanished from the narrative. His personal quest for vengeance has been swallowed up by a tide of national retribution. As we stand on the precipice of Benjamin's destruction, we're forced to grapple with the consequences of unchecked vengeance. The nation that once prided itself on being God's chosen people now teeters on the edge of self-destruction. The smoke of battle clears, revealing a landscape forever changed. The tribe of Benjamin, once proud and numerous, now stands on the brink of extinction. Only 600 men remain, hiding in the rocky shelter of Rimmon. The other tribes, their anger spent, face a grim reality. They've nearly annihilated one of their own. This is the aftermath of vengeance unleashed, a nation torn apart by its own righteous fury. But as the dust settles, a new challenge emerges. How can Israel rebuild from this devastation? More importantly, how can they ensure the survival of Benjamin without breaking their solemn vows? The moral dilemma facing the tribes is as complex as it is urgent. They've sworn not to give their daughters as wives to the Benjamites, a vow made in the heat of their anger. But now, faced with the near extinction of an entire tribe, they must find a way to balance justice with mercy, punishment with preservation. In this moment of crisis, we see a glimmer of grace. The same nation that nearly destroyed Benjamin now seeks to restore it. It's a powerful reminder that even in our darkest hours, there's always a path back to light if we're willing to take it. The solution they devise is far from perfect. It involves raiding a city that didn't participate in the gathering at Mizpah and allowing the surviving Benjamites to capture wives at a festival. It's a messy, morally ambiguous plan that solves one problem while creating others. But isn't that often the way of the world? As we watch Israel grapple with the consequences of their actions, we're reminded of the words that both open and close the book of Judges. In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. These words take on new meaning in light of the chaos we've witnessed. Without a strong moral center, without clear leadership, even well-intentioned actions can spiral into disaster. The Levite's personal tragedy became a national catastrophe because there was no higher authority to guide or restrain the people's response. This stark reality forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about our own lives and societies. How do we ensure that our pursuit of justice doesn't become a crusade of vengeance? What safeguards do we need to prevent our moral compasses from spinning out of control? The story of Judges 19 and its aftermath isn't just ancient history, it's a mirror held up to our own world. We see echoes of this tale in every news cycle, in the way personal grievances can explode into national crises, in the struggle to balance justice with mercy. But perhaps the most challenging question this story poses is the one we began with. What makes a true hero? Is it the Levite who cried out for justice, even if his methods were questionable? Is it the tribes who rallied to punish evil, even though their zeal led to near disaster? Or is it those who sought to rebuild and restore, even when it meant compromising their principles? The answer, like the story itself, is complex. True heroism, it seems, isn't about grand gestures or flawless morality. It's about facing the consequences of our actions, seeking restoration even when it's difficult, and striving to do right even in a world where right isn't always clear. The tale of Judges 19 holds up a mirror to our souls, revealing the darkness that lurks when we abandon our moral compass. We've seen how one man's choices sparked a fire that nearly consumed a nation. But from these ashes, a new understanding of heroism emerges. True heroes aren't perfect. They're the ones who confront their failings, who protect the vulnerable even when it costs them, and who cry out for justice in a world gone mad. In every age, we need these beacons of light. So what about you? In your daily life, where do you see injustice? Where can you be a voice for the voiceless? Our world may not face the extremes of Judges 19, but the call to heroism echoes just as loudly. Will you answer? Remember, every choice ripples outward. Your actions today could shape tomorrow's world. So I ask you again, what makes a true hero in God's eyes? The answer might just be staring back at you in the mirror.